Welcome back to the Super Hornet podcast. Seven Hale, aka the Super Hornet, got a very special guest today. Darian, Twitter legend. Trust Buzz on Twitter. Trust the Buzz on YouTube. You got to follow all this stuff because, I mean, we talked a little bit about. I've been following you for a minute, like when we first loaded in. But I mean, you were one of the first, like when I got on Hornets Twitter and got online, like first person I subscribed to on YouTube, first person I followed on Twitter. I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about, and it's cool to have you on here. I've had some other guys that started I just had James Plowright on. I just had Doug Branson on. I even had Spawn Hour on, which was really cool. So a lot of the Hornets guys have been like following for a while, getting on the show. And Darian, you're just next guy on the list for dominoing. Well, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, we've been talking about it. I think we've talked about it even before you really got it going. It was like, we definitely need to do something together. But yeah, you've gotten a lot of people on here, and that's great. That's great. That's the one thing about the Hornets community is that for the most part, everybody's gonna hop on everybody's stuff just to talk about this team.
For sure. Even if there was guys on there like I don't agree with, they're like, hey, no matter what you feel, let's get on. I forget who it was on Twitter, but they're like, I'm filming something. Let's get everybody together. Let's talk. And no matter how you feel about the team, no matter where you are, I think we all like to enjoy the community and we'll talk to each other. It's more civil when you're talking face to face too. I imagine.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Twitter gets nasty.
Easily. It's because you can't read tones.
Oh my
That's one
God,
thing
you cannot.
I've learned is that some people when I talk to them like this, I'm like, oh okay, now I see why they talk the way they talk on Twitter, and it makes a lot more sense.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and you took a Twitter break. So was that nice?
That actually, so that's the thing. Like I did that on purpose. I was like, I did that to take a break. But really, I mean, I'm honestly just tired of our season being over in December,
Yeah.
and trying to this point in the season, and we're probably about to get into it. This is where like everybody's so on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Get rid of everybody, get rid of nobody, do this, do that. And it's just like you don't want to be. I didn't want to be caught up in that. It just wasn't. To me, it's not worth it.
It's not.
But I mean, that's the team's fault. Like I don't. If the team was in a different situation, I don't think you have that parallel
Yeah.
within the fan base. I think the team has caused that. So I really can't blame people because there's nothing there after December. There's nothing ever for us to talk about. So that's where it just
The
you
draft
get
lottery.
right. You get months to just overanalyze
And
every little
fester.
thing with the team. Yeah, and it's not good. It's not good.
It's
And
not
I
good.
found myself doing it. Yeah, so I was just like, I'm going to say. And then that Spurs game, I was like, okay, well, I've been off for about a month.
You've been off for a while. And then UNC made it. And you're like, I guess I'll come back.
That was because I was not expecting that. I thought UNC was not going to make it. I mean, as much of a fan I am, I didn't think they deserved it. In terms of like all of that, like their resume. I think that talent
Quad
wise,
was
they
it like
definitely
1-12 in the quad one? Like they did not have.
right. And in most of those games, like they didn't look good. I mean, granted, a lot of those games were early in the season, outside of a couple of games against
Yeah.
Duke towards the end. But
Remember the
yeah, I was
Hawaii
kind of
game was real bad. I was like, oh, they're losing to
yeah,
Hawaii right now. Yeah.
right.
But that's enough
So
about college
add that with the
basketball. Yeah.
Hornets, yeah,
Yeah.
add that
I
with
got
the
that.
Hornets almost winning by 20. I mean, technically they were up like 30, and then
They were 35.
it was the backup G League. It's not even the G League. It's the
Yeah.
backup G League. It's gave away the lead. So I was like, I'll come back.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, we're glad to have you back because it's nice. But yeah, no, just the Hornets are in an interesting spot as we were talking about. It's the after December, the season's over. We're cooked. The All-Star break, my brain's turned off at that point. I'm like, okay.
Right.
I think last year, not this year, but last year, during the All-Star game, they had like the mascots. And I saw you go there. I was like, oh my God, there's a Hornets representation. But yeah, like that's just how it goes. But what do you like other than the negativity? How do you feel this team's outlook? Like obviously we had a lot of injuries. We have like we're missing a lot of guys. I think that's why our last few years have ended in December is because we don't get half of our production out of December. LaMelo went down I think the first game in December last year, and it was like against the Magic, and we're cooked after that. So like, how do you feel like optimistically, or I guess you can be pessimistic if you want to, but how do you feel about next season and going into this off season?
Next season, in terms of where we could be, I think it's good. You look at the East. The East is not strong, and kind of what we were talking about before. It's it's part of the team's fault that the fans feel this way because it's hard as a fan. Like if we look right now, who like the Hawks are like above us in terms of like playing, and they haven't won that many games. The Nets were
That's
for a long time were like at 20 wins, and they were still only 3 games away from the play-in. So you see that, it's just like, why can't we do that? Like, if that's the bar, there's no reason for us not to be in there. So I feel optimistic in terms of, I feel as though we can get that. I think the East is just going to be exact replica of what it is this year. I don't think it's going to get any better. I think maybe the 76ers, you would hope for them, for their sake, I guess they look a little better. But that's it. I don't think any of these other teams are just gonna jump out and all of a sudden be better. Maybe the Raptors, but I don't even like their fit, like talent wise, I'm sure, but like their fit of the players. So I think that there's still a chance for us to talent wise for us to make it. Realistically, though, I just don't know if that's in the plans. I think that there's still more that they're trying to do. Do I agree with that? Not. We can talk about it, but I think that they're still trying to build more. Um, I think it's also going to depend on who we get in the draft. We get Cooper
yeah,
Flag, we get VJ, um, some like one of those two guys. Then maybe I feel as though we might hit the ground and they really try to build something. Obviously, you can't stop injury. That's something we're going to have to look at. But if we don't get any of those two guys, I think that's where it's like, okay, they're going to try to build slowly another season. You got Nurkic deal. Maybe you can package it for something. I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, optimistically looking at even right now, if I were to look at this team completely healthy, I would say there's no reason for us not to make the, at least the play in.
yeah,
I just don't know if I don't know what they're trying to do in terms of building the team. I don't. I would think that this is not a good offseason to try to get that. Some people say star, some people say all star, but just that extra caliber player. Because you look at the free agency, it's not all of that. Like the free agency is not looking good. It's the NBA, so you never know who's disgruntled. But I'm looking. Everybody seems to kind of, especially after this trade deadline, everybody kind of seems in their place for now. I just don't know where that help is going to come from. So it's just a matter of what they want to do. I think talent wise, there's no reason for us not to make it, at least to play in. But there's things out of our control. It's really just up to them and what they decide as far as the front office being.
yeah. No, definitely. It's one of those that like it depends. You were talking about like disgruntled stars and what could happen. It really just depends on like who's available. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if the Hornets have acquired enough assets, they could really go get. I don't see anybody they want, but they could probably if a player came up available that the Hornets wanted, they could get him. Like they haven't, especially with that Dallas pick and that Miami pick now.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kyrie might not come back. He's towards ACL and he's a free agent this offseason.
Right.
AD played a half for them.
Right.
Like it's and their big three is 30. Like the average age is like 33 and a half. Like it's
Yeah.
we have good assets in the Miami. Obviously, they just traded away Jimmy Butler, but they're Miami, so they could probably re up. So I mean, the pick might be the most valuable it will ever be right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that could be something, but I mean, it really depends on who's available and who they want to go after. I am not opposed. I mean, there was a meme I saw. It was for Miles Bridges, and it was like, it's like, uh, I want him off my team. He plays really good. Maybe
Oh.
we should keep him. He plays bad again. And it's like a loop,
Right.
and it's like you are here. It's like maybe we should keep him. But I mean, you know, he has been at least he's better than he was last year this time of the year when the season was over, and he's averaging what 25 since the All Star break.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if it's just he's having a good stretch or what's going on, but
So my thing with that is I have this thing where I and we haven't seen enough of it, but I struggle with until Brandon Miller can dribble. I don't like their fit together. They're to me they're both out of position. So like I do like Miles at the three, but like Brandon Miller can't be his two if he's at the three. Like
yeah,
it doesn't work that way. Um, and then we have Josh Green, Josh Okogie, who may return next year. So they will probably I would assume go to the three, but then that pushes Miles to the four. And I like his fit a little better there with Brandon Miller, but in until Miles Bridges either starts attacking the rim consistently in a way we saw a few years ago, which I think down the stretch he has been doing it a lot more. But I think also that's more so the indicator of talent around him. Like
Yeah.
I think Miles. It seems as though Miles more than anybody knows he has to up his game in order for there to be any chance. I think he knows that. It feels as though he knows that more than anybody right now. So unless he does that and starts attacking the rim more, start being more aggressive, start getting downhill, or Brandon Miller learns how to dribble, whichever one comes first, it's going to me. It's tough to have them two play with each other. So I don't know. I don't really like that fit. So
I
yeah, to
don't
your
like
point.
Miles at the 3 regardless. I don't think he has
Mm-hmm.
like I think he just when he was younger and he was a little more like physically like he was when he was more of a freak athlete, it worked.
Right.
But now I just feel like and I don't think he has a size before either. That's the one thing like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not loving his fit like period.
Yeah. And the thing is like it's tough to say that because of his production. Like his production is crazy. Um, and you know, even when early in the season when he was struggling, if Brandon Miller was out or LaMelo was out, he would play well. It's just that when there's other people, him as the third option, I just don't think works for his game, and that's not his fault. That like I hate
Yeah.
when people blame that on players. That like, oh well, he like almost like the Brad Beal situation. You know, it's a little different. People are really hard on Brad Beal, but it's like he's went from being asked to average 30 to being like a facilitator, let Katie and Devin Booker work
A
type of
$50 million Avery Bradley.
right, and that's not his fault. Like he's never had to do. Even he had John
Yeah.
Wall on his team, and he got the ball more than he's getting it now. So I know injuries and all that stuff play a part into an age, even, but it's not his fault that it's not a good fit. And I feel as though that's kind of what we're seeing with Miles is that the way this team is growing and who you think they're at least prioritizing, it's not his fault that he no longer fits with this team. But also to our point earlier, it's still even though he may not be a fit, and even though people say like LaMelo has certain things he needs to work out, Brandon Miller definitely has things he needs to work out. It's all still good enough to get at least into the play-in. So I'm not too urgent on making blowing something up or trading somebody. Um, but if they are thinking long term, then you have to think about okay, maybe Miles doesn't fit here. But once again, that's not necessarily his fault. It's just the way the team's constructed is that it just doesn't it feels like as though there's going to be a cap on this team, and that's something they said they do not want is where we make the playoff one time and then we never see it again.
Yeah, definitely. Which he's somebody as a third option. It kind of reminded me of like how Micic, when he would come off the bench, he sucked. When he started, he played kind of decent. It's the way
Yeah.
you play in the game, the way the game feels. It's where he struggles when he's the third option, which could be a selling point if you were to look to trade him. You were to trade him for like like a Larry Markkinen or like a Zion Williamson. You know, he could be your number one scoring option, and he'll be a decent number one scoring option. Please put butts in seats. Have somebody average 25. At least for the time being. Which is why I think like I'm not opposed to like making a move this offseason. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
maybe this isn't the offseason too. I think it might be, like I said, because the Miami Heat pick is more valuable right now. I would argue that the Dallas pick is more valuable right now, and Miles Bridges is playing at arguably his career best. I think like he might have had a better season before everything happened, and he got the suspension that wasn't a suspension but was a suspension. Um, but he had a better season, but like peak right now, he's up there like with the best of them. I think those all that together. I mean, I always just look at Larry Markkinen because he was on the option. Like he was potentially getting traded last offseason and all of that. And a 7-foot power forward who can shoot 40% from three sounds really nice to me. I don't know if that's like
No,
you.
I think he would be a great fit. I think
Off
he would be a great
ball
fit.
threat too. But the thing is, I will say you were talking about Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller and that ball handling. Miles Bridges, the one thing that he can do really well is like take some guys off the dribble. I wouldn't say really well, but like the ball's in his hands and it's him
enough to be a threat.
Oh yeah, like he will take you off the dribble and be decent. That's always nice to have. I'm hoping that with Brandon Miller being out right now, they talked about he's out there helping people warm up and everything. Maybe his left hand's gonna get more solid. He'll be able to be a more solid ball handler at the end of this. Maybe he'll be a little shaky to start, but his left hand's going to be a lot better, and he's going to be able to, his right hand will catch back up when he gets back into it. I wouldn't mind, if we don't win the lottery, it'd be nice to have a VJ Edgecombe, have him run the 2, he can handle the ball, and run Brandon at the 3. I think Brandon at the 3 is better for what he does. He's more of a catch and shoot, option. He can still handle the ball, and he has his moments, and he put that guy in the Hawks on the floor and then dunked on somebody last year, or it was earlier this year, and he has his moments where he can handle the ball well, and he will improve. I'm not saying he's not going to be able to do that, but as a 3, he's 6'9", lanky, he has that that 3 build, so it would be nice to have him with especially with a ball handling 2 guard who can also maybe Melo has always heard it feels like have a guy who can handle the ball. The 2 would be nice, just in case.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think VJ would be really good at that because he can facilitate and start up his own offense. Whether he's got to do it himself, he's got to pass it, and I think it's good to have 2 people like that on the floor. That's not taking. I think his game actually fit with LaMelo because we kind of had that with Terry almost.
Yeah.
That LaMelo's second year worked very well. Terry was, to me, one of the. You couldn't ask for a better guard pairing in terms of how they played off each other offensively. But then it just, I don't know. After that, it just kind of fell apart.
The defense didn't make up for the offense, and VJ is a defensive animal, and is one of the most athletic freaks you see.
High motor on defense.
He is like a Charles Lee kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
He's just like Josh Green on steroids.
Yeah, basically.
But no, he's somebody you see. I mean, the draft. I try to look at other people's stuff in the draft because I don't watch a lot of college basketball. I'll go in and I'll watch film afterwards, and I've been trying to watch at least the top 4 guys. I feel like after 4, there's a big fall off. And, I see the ups and the downs with Dylan Harper and with Ace Bailey as well. So if you have picked 2, maybe take Dylan Harper. I think anything after 2, you got to take VJ, in my opinion. I just hope for the 1.
I agree. I actually don't like Ace Bailey for us because then it's another Brandon Miller, and then now we have Miles, Brandon, and Ace, and that's just not.
It wouldn't be good
Brandon
for Ace
in terms of the most beneficial play style for him, because there's a lot of things they do differently, but in terms of what they're best at right now, it's very similar.
That's why, when Brandon Ingram was available, I was kind of we get straight for Brandon Ingram, and I'm like, maybe not, because he kind of does very similar to what Brandon Miller does. So similar to that. You talked about Toronto. I know this is the Hornets thing. Toronto intrigues me. I don't know. I think if they can get a point guard in this draft, a backup point guard, and they can, figure it out, I'm intrigued. I'm not gonna say that I'm intrigued. It could work.
They have interesting players. I kind of wonder how they're gonna make it work. I can't remember who, but was it? I think RJ Barrett. I think they're saying. I think I've seen a lot of Raptors fans say that now with Brandon Ingram, it kind of makes RJ Barrett expendable. I agree. I would agree with that without watching every Raptors game. But it sounds as though I get it. I get what they're trying to say, because I don't think that's another thing. Even though they're kind of different players, that's kind of what I don't want with the Hornets. How Brandon Ingram and RJ Barrett, they're not the same, but it's almost a little redundant. When Miles Bridges is not playing like the Miles Bridges we wanted, before
it becomes redundant.
Then it's very similar. It's a little redundant. But if we do get the downhill Miles, then my tune is completely changed. It's hard to get that Miles consistently because the rotation's out of flux, and he's still. I still think even now, for however many games we're into the season, he's still trying to figure out what these different lineups need from him. And every night we're seeing him play. He's a different player almost every night, and it's just because everything's changing around him, and he's trying to figure. Because this offense, the idea of the offense doesn't really fit for him. It's not ideal for him to play this way. He's making it work, but I think it's just because at this point they're not even really running the offense. They're chucking up the threes, but the actual flow of the offense is not going as planned. Which, when you're missing so many people and it's so late into the season, it makes sense.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I want to talk about this too. Mark Williams. Charles Lee wants to run an offense where the center can shoot the three ball because he's at the top of the key handling the ball. Mark Williams is a plus passer, I would say. He makes passes that impress me. I mean, I wouldn't have said that going into the year, but I've noticed he's a very pretty decent passer. But like you notice when Nurkic came to the team, everyone's like, "What? Why is people not like Nurkic?" Because he looked good. Because he was the guy. He at least had the threat of the three ball, so that it opened up the defense. You know, the opposing center would come out to guard him, and then we'd have wide open passing lanes inside. He'd make some good passes, and so I mean, if we had a plus center like from the outside, maybe Miles would be somebody you'd want to keep. But I don't know if that's something they address with like the trade. Do you do like maybe like a sign and trade with Indy and try to get Miles Turner, or he's always been rumored here. I mean, he's also just going to be a free agent. But I don't know how the money's going to work here, or what have you. Just some guys in the draft. I mean, Derek Queen's a little undersized, but he can shoot the ball a little bit. It just depends on what the team does. But I think I'm someone who, I respect Miles Bridges as a basketball player. I've had a lot of really fun moments watching him play in person, for the Hornets in general. I mean, some of my favorite memories from the Hornets is just that little, like those play-in runs with him and LaMelo, and all the fun, they used to have. But I'm very much team, if you can go get a Larry Markkinen, or you can go get a Zion, or even if you can just add what this team needs, whatever. Like maybe there's a guy we're not even thinking about. A guy who becomes available. I mean, if you can go get a stretch five who can start for this team who's younger. I mean, I don't know who that could be, but a guy who fits a team better. I'm very much pro. But let's do it.
Yeah, and Miles is technically the only person that can really get us something like that, just because of the fact of his contract. But unless you want to package a bunch of players, but then at that point, it's like, what's the point when you're missing out? I understand that people may not like Josh Green or Josh Okogie or something, but it's better than what we had. And if you were to package all of those guys for one guy, then we have no bench again. So I don't know. It's just a matter of, and then there's still Trey Mann is still a thing, even though he don't play like those guys. But like as far as just like what would our bench look like, Trey Mann's still up in the air. The more time passed, the more I'm like, should we even? I don't even know what's wrong with him. So should we even resign him? I would love to, like in terms of what I saw, but it's been so long without any real updates. It's just like what's going on there. So
he's been talked about
so
on the show.
many things you have to look at. Grant Williams, I know that his game didn't really rely on his athleticism, but can he still be able to be as sturdy as he was? Because that was one of the biggest things for him, is being able to be that small ball five, and it helped us out a lot in games. Will he be able to continue that coming off an injury? He might be able to do it maybe even the next year, but we're talking immediately, this following season. I don't know. So yeah, it leaves a lot. It's hard to make decisions when you have so many parts that are just up in the air. It's the NBA, and we all know things can just happen, like the Luka trade. Like I think that is something that
the Mark Williams trade that just happened too.
Oh yeah, so it's like good and bad, as in, it's good because who doesn't love seeing stuff like that in the NBA, but it's bad because now, specifically in our situation, being Hornets fans, you have a group of fans that are like, well, we can just do that. It's like, no, it doesn't necessarily work like that. Like Nico Harrison got finessed. Not everybody's gonna let themselves get finessed like that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yes, it happened, but it's not like this. Especially now that it's been where the Mavericks have gone since that trade. Every GM is looking, and like they're going to think maybe 4 times about the next trade they make, when it includes big players, because they don't want that to happen to them. Granted, the injury luck you couldn't have expected, but just in general, you don't want to be
still a bad trade, even if everybody's healthy. Still a bad trade.
Right. So, and you don't know, nobody wants that. So nobody's just going to be willing to give up players anymore. It's going to take a while. Same with the Rudy Gobert trade. It took about a season, I would say, for the market to kind of reset to where everybody's because no one wanted to do a trade anymore because that was being asked. It's like, well, Rudy Gobert got that. Rudy Gobert. So then the trades kind of died down. But now, once again, we're going to have to wait for it to reset, or someone to be unhappy with the situation, whichever comes first. Which, like I said, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know anybody that would want to leave their team right now. I mean, I can't think of anybody.
To
But
be fair, I didn't think Darren Fox was going to want to leave going into the deadline, and then he
that's a good
all
one.
of a
Yeah,
sudden. But yeah, no, we the the market is just so crazy. I mean, even like the Mikal Bridges trade, that was 5 first-round picks for him. I was shocked. Um, you never know what's really going to happen, and this team obviously needs changes, and I think the ownership knows that, and I think they wanted to, this draft was pretty loaded. I know the next draft is supposed to be pretty loaded too, so I guess it's all up in the air now what they're going to do. But our pick was lottery protected, so maybe they were just like, let's just try to keep our pick, and why?
I agree.
It's similar to like how you said how they were saying don't make the playoffs for 1 year to not make it in the future. I think that might have been hinting at tanking this year a little bit. So why push even the weak East? But I mean, the fact that the East is weak might be a enticing thing for them to pursue. But I really trust this ownership group, and I really trust Jeff Peterson. He wasn't the main GM, but he was one of the guys who was in Brooklyn when they assembled their big three, and it was more people above him that ruined that.
Right.
With the attitudes towards Kyrie and James Harden that made him want to leave. But I mean, he was a part of that assembling that team, and I trust the owners. I don't think they made a bad trade so far. I mean, even the Mark Williams trade, that was a great trade for us. That's the reason I think that's the reason why I got rescinded. But I mean, I have not. We got a first-round pick for Cody Martin and Vasiljevic and Nurkic, who we're probably going to flip for something else next year if we don't
Right.
use
It
him
could
in
be
a
useful for us if we were to move up
yeah.
Mark Williams.
Yeah, it could be useful for us. I mean, you talked about don't not want to gut the bench. He's
Mm-hmm.
$18 million a year. You put him with Miles Bridges. That's a max contract.
Yeah.
So I mean, then you're not gutting your bench for the most part. I mean, we got to see what happens with Musa here. Because they still haven't said anything about the injury. Have you seen anything? I haven't seen a PR thing about it,
No, I haven't seen anything either.
which is terrifying.
So
That's
yes,
never a good thing. That's not.
never.
It's never like, oh,
Because
he's
they've been better
fine.
about it this year. They've been outside of I would say Trey Mann. They've been really good at like giving updates on injuries. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think
that has
Trey
been
Mann is the one dragging out the stuff because he doesn't want to have surgery. So I think he was trying to push off not having
I
surgery.
have heard
I
that.
think how this offseason goes is he gets the qualifying. Trey Mann gets qualifying offer. He comes back for a prove yourself year. So we have extra money on the books. I mean, they talked about wanting to trade Mark Williams again. That was a report yesterday that he's going to be available. I think the Hornets are doing. We're recording this during the Knicks game, which we both. I mean, I was saying I don't miss Hornets games anymore, and my phone keeps buzzing. I guess Mark's got 3 blocks right now already.
Wow. Yeah.
Blocked to 3, and LaMelo again. I guess he's torching the thing.
What's
So
crazy is Lamelo. I think he started off like 0-3, 0 for 4, and now he's 4 for 9 with 10.
there we go. See, I watch every game. This is the first game I haven't watched the tip off for in a long time. But it was the Knicks. I'm like, well, the Knicks are looking good, and we're trying to tank. But of course, here we are. I'm not watching, and we're doing good. Maybe that's the reason I became
That's
the
what I was
more
thinking. I was
the
like,
more I've
maybe
become
he's
a
starting to
fan, the
get
worse the team does. I've been a fan
right.
of this team since like 2014. I was just came into like being a LeBron fan. My dad's from Akron, so I was like, I kind of want a team close. And actually, my favorite part is like the reason I started liking the team so much was the Heat played the Hornets the first time with the Heatles, and they had shown Big Pat, like they talked about him about like something, and I got a heart condition, and I was like, if I was 14, and it was like my health issues always made me feel like kind of insecure, and then Pat was in a wheelchair. Todd he talked about his like they talked about his stuff. I was like, man, this guy's really cool, and I'm like, Charlotte's close. I should start rooting for the Hornets, and they had Kemba, and Kemba was young, and then I was just a Hornets fan ever since, and now I am doing what I'm doing with Hornets. So you win some, you
Oh
lose some,
man,
right?
I know, right? That's how I feel. Sometimes I'm like, man, I could have, my life could have been different,
Are
but
you
you know,
from
I
the
can't.
the Charlotte area? We never talked about that before.
Yeah, I'm originally from Fayetteville. Well, actually, I
Hmm.
was born in Georgia. That's where I live now. But I was raised in Fayetteville, and I stayed there until like I was a what was it? Probably right before I went to high school, and then I moved back to my family moved back to Georgia, and then my mom actually lives in Raleigh now, and I stayed back because I was in college, and I was like, Mom, she was like, you can just come with me. I was like, that's not how college works,
Yeah,
especially mid semester. But
yeah. I can't
so
move,
yeah,
mom.
and then yeah, life just took off from there. So I really haven't moved, but I actually I really want to come back, but now that like I have a family now. It's like it's hard to just
It's just hard to
pick up
uproot your
and
life and go.
I originally became a fan because, as you know, I'm a big UNC fan. My
Mm-hmm.
dad went there, and I was a huge fan of Sean May on the 2000 was that 2014 2005 season.
I've seen you post about Sean May before, like a few
Every
months
time I
ago.
see him, I get mad just because it's like he's. I literally was like, I didn't have all I knew was college basketball, and I was like, I will follow
Mm-hmm.
you wherever you go.
And
You
we're
got
ended up.
picked by the Bobcats at the time, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And then to this day, I'm like, every time I see him, that's like it just triggers a memory. Like I
Yeah,
just get angry all over again
I
because I
went.
could have
Yeah,
been a fan of any team.
he could have. He could have one of the Warriors, bro.
Right, right.
And you'd be like, "Yeah, sorry, Sean May," and they'd be like, "I guess that makes sense." He could have been
Yeah,
Sean Livingston
like
instead, but here we are.
I know, right?
No,
But here we are.
I'm not. I mean, I'm repping my Ohio State gear today.
Mhm.
I am family from Ohio, but I grew up in Myrtle Beach, so born and raised down here, and I'm not a big like college basketball guy. I mean, I love college basketball, but I don't have a team. I just kind of watch it,
Right.
because more of a college football like fan, but I enjoy college
Mm.
basketball. Last year I went to the regional like it was the first session where it was UNC played Wagner and
Oh.
um,
Mm-hmm.
Mich- um, Michigan State played Mississippi State. I met Roy Williams and Marvin Williams out there, so he was
Oh, okay. That's
it was
cool.
cool, seeing them out there. Roy took pictures of everybody. He was a nice guy, so you ever get a chance to run into him, he's a really cool dude. Um, but and then Marvin Williams, of course, being back in the Spectrum Center, his own right.
Right.
But yeah, no. So how do you feel about how do you feel about speaking of North Carolina colleges? I want to talk about Mark Williams a little bit more.
Mhm.
Do you want to keep him on the roster? Like, how do you feel about that? We're talking about his fit with the way that Lee wants to play. Are you somebody who the good outweighs the bad, or how'd you feel about the Mark Williams trade originally? I know we got a good package, but like, what were your
I
reaction to that? Yeah.
I don't I don't feel as though Mark is the center of the future, but I also don't feel as though he has to go. The only reason I truly wanted him to go was strictly financially. Even before that Lakers trade, I was like, we need to find something to do with Mark Williams because
Gotta pay him.
it's almost time for him to get paid, and we don't really have anything to show for it. Like me and Terry from Buzzboys, we make a joke and say Mark Williams is essentially a rookie. Well, it's over now this season, but when this season
Yeah.
started, he still hasn't played his 82 games. So it's just it was frustrating coming into the season, and even then, we still haven't seen him play meaningful basketball, and I just don't know if I'm ready for where we are as a team. I think different
Mm-hmm.
teams can take different risks. In risk, go from all kinds of sizes. Like the risk we take are not the same risk the Warriors can take. Like as like
Yeah.
they can afford to trade for Jimmy Butler and see what happens, and
Pay
maybe
him
it's working out for them.
$60 million a year.
Right, and they're fortunate enough to play that. Like Steph is a
Yeah.
great shooter. Luckily for them, shooting, it's not like you hit an age and then all of a sudden you can't shoot anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So he can kind of elongate his career a little bit longer based on what's going on with Jimmy Butler. We can't take those kind of risks. So I don't feel as though paying Mark Williams for what I think he will command and what I
Mm-hmm.
think that will be the market for him. I just don't think we're in a position to be able to do that now. If they trade for Laurie Markkinen or really, let's just say anybody. Let's just anybody that helps benefit this team, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's one player, whether that's they get a package of players. Then I can maybe say, okay, well, I'm okay with extending him. But as of right now, where we are, I can't. Like our season's over in December for the third year in a row. I cannot justify paying Mark Williams.
Like
And then I feel like
$28 million plus.
right, and we've already paid Miles. We've already paid LaMelo. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's a while for Brandon Miller. I'm pretty sure they're going to pay Brandon Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Mann, is either going to get paid this offseason or next offseason if they decide to keep him. Josh Okogie, like all these guys. And I'm not saying that they all command or we should bring them all back, but I'm saying that it's just a bunch of contracts that are coming on the horizon, and we just have a guy that I think he's good. I think that for what we're doing right now, if we're going back to trying to make the play in and then kind of go from there, I think he's perfect for that. I just don't know if we're trying to really do that next level. If I don't feel comfortable holding on to LaMelo for them to figure it out, I definitely don't feel comfortable
Yeah.
holding on to Mark Williams and for them to figure it out. So that's
Yeah.
kind of really how I feel. If they told me us this summer like we're going to try to win next year, fine. Let's see what happens. If he plays well and we end up somewhere, I'll take it. Because obviously you don't want to break up something that's working. But
Mm-hmm.
if we're in this situation again, or even if we just don't look good,
It ain't
I'm
working.
just it's not. I don't want it. I don't want it.
No,
But
I mean,
I
yeah.
mean, it's not to say he's a bad player. I feel as though I have a good understanding of what the timeline is for this team as far as what they presented to us, and I just don't feel as though he fits that timeline. I
Yeah,
don't.
I feel the same way. Like the way you were describing it with Miles, like yeah, he could benefit us now, but does he fit the future plans?
Mm-hmm.
And is it worth holding on to him to fit those future plans? Like it's um I wouldn't be mad if this summer if you know somebody like I pop in behind me right now from a time machine and say Mark Williams and Miles Bridges aren't on the team anymore. We traded them. I'd be like that makes sense and that's pretty good. Like I mean, it depends on
Right.
what we get. Obviously, I don't want to get same thing. We don't want to get fleeced. But I mean, we are keeping LaMelo and Brandon. That is for sure. Those are like the
Mm-hmm.
two guys. They said, well, everybody else is open. You can free game everybody else.
Right.
But I mean, like I think this team could make. I mean, like we talked about a minute ago. Cody Martin and Vasily just got his first round pick and Nurkic. That's you do that with like Josh Green. Josh Green is a guy you could lie to a contender and be like, yeah, look at him. He's shooting 40% from three. He's perfect for your team. What are you talking about?
Right.
But like that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that um this front office has proven that they can do. And
Mm-hmm.
now we need to see the front office. I don't think we're gonna compete. Next year for like trying to like win the first round. But I think
Right.
this team has shown they can acquire assets. Now it's time to see if they can use those to upgrade the roster. Because I mean,
Exactly.
it's like I really like Josh Okogie. He was only on the team for
I
like a
agree.
few games, but I already like him more than Josh Green. He's
You
got
do.
the better positional size. He's more athletic. He's younger. He is somebody. He was a better leader too. I won a few games with watching him play, and the way he coaches the guys. You see him on the sideline. He's out there
Yeah.
coaching the guys up. You don't see that with Josh Green. Josh Green can go to somewhere else, respectfully. If Josh Green was a bench guy, then maybe. But I don't like Josh Okogie or Josh Green as starters, either of them. So I mean, I would
Yeah.
want maybe one of them off the bench as your backup 2, 3. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of all I want from them. Probably a 3 because I want in a perfect world we get a backup like point guard who can score but is a facilitator. Let Trey who can play a little defense. Let Trey Mann run the 2. I joke like we had Markel Fultz as our or not Markel Fultz. Who do we have? Alfred Payton as our
Oh.
I don't know why I don't get the guys mixed up. I guess it's the magic stuff. They have the
Oh.
magic in the
Yeah.
brain, but Alfred Payton. If you had like prime Alfred Payton, he'd be perfect for the backup point guard for this
Oh,
team.
for sure. For sure.
Like a guy who can facilitate, get a bucket if he needs to, play some defense. If the Hornets didn't acquire a backup point guard like that, who can fit those roles, I don't know who that would be per se, but have those, that be your bench with Trey Mann. Hopefully he comes back, and can play next year. He'll probably
Mm-hmm.
won't come back at the same strength to start. And then you have Josh Okogie. You're gonna have Grant Williams as your backup 4. Either Musa or Nurkic is your backup 5. I mean, Moose took a 3 before he got hurt last night or 2 nights ago. He
Yeah.
hopefully it's something like he was grabbing his hamstring rather than his knee, so I'm hoping it's like a strain or like a sprain or something, just something like this really hurts, ow, but I'm gonna be
Right.
okay.
And then, especially in the position we're in, you gotta
Just shut him down.
amplify. Like, yeah, like just sit out for 3 weeks. It may be a 1 week thing, but just sit out for 3.
The
Like,
season's over.
there's
Just
no
just chill on the
reason.
bench, please. We paid
Right.
you.
There's no reason to play. Like, I would honestly be upset if they were playing people who just like, Because
Yeah.
you hear NBA players say it all the time. Like we're always hurt. I would be highly upset if I were to see them
Mm-hmm.
kind of bring back guys like Musa or whoever gets hurt the next game. Like there's no, we are in no position to be doing that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I hope that like you're saying, it's just a strain. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was just an extended time, just because there's no
Yeah.
reason to try to force it. Especially if you
Everyone,
just
yeah.
played them. Like there's just no reason.
Everyone's mad like LaMelo's not playing certain games. Like, bro, it's a back-to-back. The season's over. LaMelo, you can just chill. I don't need you to break your wrist again. You know?
I've seen enough of him.
Yeah.
Like I've said like I really wish we could see LaMelo if he was healthy, just to keep it going.
Yeah.
But I've seen enough now. Like I've seen enough to where they want to shut him down. I will not complain. Like I make this illusion all the time, but with the OKC Thunder when they were doing their tanking with Shea, they had Shea play his I think he played a little bit until after All-Star break. Then they shut him down. There's no reason to have him out there, doing. But now, granted, OKC knew what they were doing. I don't know. I have hope in our front office. I like what you said about all their moves. I have no problem with any move they've made so far. My only question is, what can you do with that? We've seen teams be really good at this part, where they just get all these assets and then they end up just drafting all the assets and then having a bunch of players who are okay. I don't want that to happen. So we'll see what they do with the picks and stuff. But I think they did a really good job of gathering it all. And even though we're not good right now, I think it's an okay roster. Like it's not the best roster in the world, but it's okay. It's better than what we had, and that's all you can really ask for a new GM is to slowly upgrade the team. But at some point, they do have to know. All right, now we need to make a leap. So it's just I'm entrusting them to know when that time comes.
Yeah, I mean, you have 9 firsts over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
If you've seen enough from guys. Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball are inverted in how they perform. When the roster gets worse, LaMelo plays worse because he doesn't have as many options, and the defense focuses on him. But when, in turn, usually they're playing together. When the roster gets worse, Miles Bridges plays better because of those people to get in the way. So it's like, if Miles is playing good, like, man, LaMelo's probably not. But so when we had a little bit of a roster, like to start the year, LaMelo's averaging like 30. He averaged 30 to the All-Star break, and then it was, the season shut down. And, I don't want LaMelo playing back-to-backs. I don't want him, whatever. Just tank it up, Personal reasons, man. I don't know. Sorry, my dog. My dog, I had to take him to the vet. I couldn't play tonight. I'm so sorry. It's personal reasons. I saw that Larry Markkinen was out for personal reasons the other day after the Jazz got in trouble. And I'm like it's like the second game after all the fine. I'm like, he's out for personal reasons tonight, really? Like that's what we're doing tonight? Yeah, we got to give a reason, I guess. It's just funny to me. But yeah, no, ESPN gave us like the number 2 like rebuilding team right now. I saw that post I just saw Hornets Reddit posts about it, like the Hornets Reddit Twitter page. So I didn't read the article, but I mean we're number 2, probably because we've acquired so much. I still think that I mean the Thunder aren't rebuilding, but I don't even know who the other. I think the other team's probably the Nets if I had to bet, just because they've got so many assets. But we have such a good we have such a foundation, And I think this team could really be something with that foundation. Like you've been saying, I mean, you just trade a couple of those picks with, tell me that Josh Green and a pick can't get a good young player from a team trying to contend, Like that's all the team needs, these good, surefire young pieces. You tell me you can't get Benedict Mather might be a bad example, but a guy like that, or oh my God, what's his name? Keegan Murray. I was thinking of his brother's name.
Oh yeah.
like something like that. Like maybe not him exactly, but like those young guys who are when they can do it, they fit the timeline, and they're going to be sure things. Can get you a center who can shoot the ball, who's not making $18 million a year. His name is Yusuf Nurkic. I love Nurkic. He makes too much money, but like that. And you have the pieces to make something good here. And like you said, we know they can get the pieces, but can they use those pieces to finish it? And that's what we're at. I mean, I think a lottery ball is going to do a lot. I think if you win the lottery here, Miles Bridges is gone. Because why are you going to have Miles Bridges and Cooper Flag on the same team?
Yeah, you cannot have Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, and Cooper Flag on the same team.
I'd argue that if you know, if you get VJ, I would argue Josh Green's probably gone too. Because contenders are probably so interested in him. Why? It's very redundant there too.
He's on a favorable deal, and to do what he does, I mean, if I'm a contending team, why not?
Honestly, his deal's a little. I guess his deal like $9 million a year. Like, I think it's a little worse than I would maybe want on my team. Really? That's why he was brought here. He makes. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up.
I mean, I know it's like $9 million, but it's. I don't know. I don't think this is that bad for what. This is my thing. Like,
oh no, it's more than that. It's 3 years, 41 mil. What's that come out to? I'm pulling it up right now. What we do it?
12.
Yeah, ish. Closer to 13. Because 3 times 13 is 39. So it's over $13 million a year. Yeah, that's way too much money to pay Josh Green.
Like $9 million.
Yeah, I did too. I thought that was too much. He's making like 13.5.
That might be too much.
That's why he was included.
Because I was looking at him as like a trade piece, so that makes sense. Because it would have been a good trade piece if it was only 9. So yeah.
But yeah, no, even a Kuminga, like you go get Kuminga, as one of those guys you trade for.
That's a good one. If you got to figure out what you're gonna do with Miles, but yeah, that would be a good one. There's a lot of players that I would like on the team. It's just a matter of, can you give me a sense of direction of what we're going to do, and then I can feel better about the player.
This offseason is going to be like where the decisions are made, and it makes me excited and nervous because, I mean, we talked about the Hornets Twitter to start this, and I think we should wrap it up here. The fans have shown a lot of anger at times and everything, and we're a very passionate fan base, and I've been somebody pretty optimistic. This is where either the angry side or the optimistic side of the Hornets Twitter is going to be proven right, and that's where this is when we're going to find out, and that's what we got to do.
Yeah, and the worst thing we can do, honestly, is nothing.
Yeah, nothing would be the worst thing we can do.
That's the word. We either get worse, and hopefully it's on purpose, or we get better. I don't think you can go into this offseason and we're just in the same spot.
Definitely.
And you can get better by just getting your players to play better and somehow and make the plan next year. I will take that. Like, if we don't make any roster moves because there's nothing, you don't want to force it, but we're playing better, I will take that. But if we just sit here, do nothing, and then next year is more of the same, or we're still not just good enough, then that's where it's like, okay, what were we doing? So we either need to collectively on purpose get worse so we can get the start building more assets, and then hopefully next year start to trade them, or we have to jump the gun and start getting better. My only thing is, like, I'm watching that LaMelo contract. Like, I love LaMelo, want him to stay, but I don't want to hold him hostage. If you have no intentions of getting better in the next year or two, I personally just don't see the point of keeping him, because imagine what you could get for him. Like, he's already shown that if the team was good, he would have been number 1 all-star. The team was not good. That's what held him back. So why risk losing that to try to figure out what you're doing? I can understand if you have a plan, which that's what they said. They said they spoke to LaMelo. He understands the plan. He's on board. But yeah, that's my only gripe, is that I just will not be comfortable holding on to him for the sake of, we have LaMelo, we're going to be okay. It's like, no, I would rather just get out of it now than. But hopefully it doesn't come to that. Like, I'd rather just us be good instead of.
I feel a lot better. I didn't hear that quote about LaMelo. They talked to him about the plan, and he's good with it.
At the very, very beginning of the season, I don't even think the season even started yet.
Perfect.
I think it was when he signed his extension. That's when they said it. We had a long talk with him about our plan, and allegedly, I'll see if I can. I'll make sure to text it to you. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was either when he signed his extension or right before the season. But I know for a fact they said it.
It would have been after the extension, because the extension he did that before the new ownership took over. So that was not. That's why people were worried about thinking about he might get traded. But I mean, if he's on board with it, that makes me feel a lot better. I think the one thing is LaMelo and Brandon Miller are only like 16, 18 months apart in age, just because LaMelo went overseas. So I mean, their timelines are roughly the same. So I mean, it's more about I don't think it'd be holding him hostage in like a timeline sense. Is more of a we have a lot of money tied into him and we're not doing anything with him. But I think this team is the Hornets are just a passionate fan base, and I think it made us worse. This doesn't sound bad, but it made us worse before with Michael Jordan as the owner because they still sold tickets and they still did everything and people showed up because people like the Hornets, regardless. I'm hoping that this ownership group sees that the passionate fans can be used much better if you have a good team, and instead of allowing Michael Jordan to be complacent and be like, well, people are going to buy tickets anyways. Let this be like, okay, people are wanting to be here. Let's go all out and swing for the fences here. So I mean, it really just depends. But Darian, it's been nice having you on, man. Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, I mean my YouTube channel, Twitter, all that good stuff.
I'll be linked
really,
in the description.
I just want to say that you're doing good stuff here, man. Like I really appreciate just like you willing to bring the community together. I think that's big. Everybody has different opinions about this team, and I think that having a space where you can bring those differing opinions, but everybody's gonna listen. I think that's great. So shout out to you for doing that. I think that's
man. I love the team.
Like I see people talking about the Hornets. I see you in there. So,
yeah. Like, I'm usually like, hey, let's just be positive a little bit, please. Let's be positive, please. I need it.
It doesn't go unnoticed, and it's needed. Like it's needed because I know even sometimes I'm just tired of losing. Like that's ultimately what it comes down to. I don't care how we start winning. I don't care if it's with LaMelo, without LaMelo. I would prefer it to be with LaMelo, but
yeah,
I just want to win. And yeah, I mean that's really what it comes down to. And I think that's what we all want. And that's the part that's like frustrating about it all when there is issues because we all just want I guarantee you everybody just wants the team to win. Like it's not any more, any less than that. But yeah, so you're just doing great stuff, and I really
appreciate that, man. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up here then. Go Hornets. Check out Darian, all of his links in the description, and have a go, man.